Greetings. Welcome to another episode of Meeting the Pros. I am your host, Finn, and today we have the honor of sitting down virtually with the true visionary, Alessandro Palombo. Alessandro is the co-founder and CEO of Bitizenship, a pioneering advisory firm specializing in residency and citizenship by investment programs for crypto investors. So welcome, Alessandro.
Hi, Finn. I'm very glad to be here with you today.
So let us begin with a rather easy question. So I have been looking at your past experience. So you have been very busy, to say the least. So do you have any spare time reserved for yourself?
Thanks for this question. So, over the years, actually, I had different roles, different startups, because I started as a lawyer and then I've been actually more dragged into the startup life. And I founded a couple of companies. So, right now, I'm still busy because I'm on Citizenship and another venture, along with Tim Draver, who is a very well-known Silicon Valley investor. So, we are doing different things from different angles, but I discovered over the years that in general, having your own passions and time for yourself, sometimes it's also the kind of secret for eventually being also more productive. So I have spare time and I try amateurly to play tennis and also eventually sing a bit. So I think sometimes it's important to having time to read and especially in startups, it's very easy thing to make the mistake of thinking that if you work 16 hours, almost 14 hours per day for 7 days out of 7, you will get to better results. So I think everyone should really find his own inner balance and then try to express that inner balance on the work that they do. And the most successful people I know in every field, they have time for themselves. So I try to learn from them.
Absolutely. Inner balance is all the time that we're trying to strive for. So I think that's very insightful comments from you. So I really appreciate it. So now let's move on to a more related topic, so to speak. So how do you first come into contact with the crypto space, and what exactly did the crypto space drew you into it?
That's a great question. So my journey into crypto or blockchain and then predominantly Bitcoin, actually I got into crypto from a deep interest in the impact that blockchain in general could have and will have eventually to a certain extent on the governance structures of our society. Because in the end, this technology in particular is destined to have an impact on how organizations and eventually public organizations are functioning and function. So that was the specific angle that drew my interest. And to be very specific, in the early days, when smart contracts were something completely new, I saw in this kind of movement a completely new level of potentially efficiency for private and public relationships. And so my angle was a bit coming from the sort of legal governance perspective. I've always been more or less very much oriented and aligned with Bitcoin predominantly, because Bitcoin is not crypto in general. This is always a good kind of remark to do. So besides Bitcoin, I was really deeply interested and a believer, to be frank, in this, the power of decentralized autonomous organizations and so far and so on. And I do believe in the next 20 years, maybe variations of these will have a large impact on society. I think to be frank, for me, the real deal of this whole movement is still and predominantly in Bitcoin. Bitcoin will remain, in my view, the most incredible revolution of probably our generation, along with AI. There will be new forms of organizations, more privatistic one. I think the future will be done by more Singapore-like experiments. Let me give you this analogy. And I think technology and blockchain could play a role in that. I would say generational improvement will take place regarding with public organization in general. And that's more or less the kind of substrate from which Citizenship, started as initially an idea, and then it grow very fast as a leading business in this space.
So you have basically successfully merged your legal experience and expertise with technical innovations. So in 2024, you basically took another step, lead into a new field that is immigration. and now I basically started advising on Golden Visa funds with a, I guess, crypto-centric strategy. So, what inspired you to move into the immigration space? Like, what is the motivation behind that leap?
Great question. So, first of all, to explain maybe to who is listening what do we do. So we created the first Golden Visa eligible fund, in this case in Portugal, with indirect exposure to Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. Of course, it's an indirect exposure because the fund invests in a local company, essentially a Bitcoin treasury company. What does it mean? So we have been the creator of this model that allows creates a new balance, right, between programs enabling people to get a passport or to get residency and then the passport. In the case of Portugal, it works that way. So you get the residency first. After 5 years, you can apply for a passport. But at the same time, you get indirect exposure, of course, via a local company, which pays taxes in the country and so far and so on. But you get exposure to Bitcoin. So if you're a long-term Bitcoin believer and you want to, and your priority is also having full transparency in the assets or in the companies you're investing in, we are the best partner. So we scaled up in a few months to 20 million plus assets under management, and I guess this is a testament of probably the need in the market for this kind of product. And I'm very proud of this direction, not only for the economic impact or eventually the current success, but it's also for the kind of philosophical message that we launched. And to get back to your question, why we did it and how we came up with this, ultimately it's all about freedom. It's all about giving to people optionality, because if we want to keep it simple without too much theory, the reality is that we don't know. It would be very arrogant for anyone to think, oh, I know how the world will look like in 10 years. Sometimes we don't even know how the world will look like in 5 or 3. And in this context, I think it became pretty obvious to everyone right now how many, the rules of the game in general are changing at any level. Every 6 months you see governments, countries changing completely their policy, their direction. And in this context, giving people the option and the power to choose, and eventually more options down the line for their kids, in my view, it's crucial. So this was the intent behind Bitizenship. Bitizenship, why? Bitcoin Citizenship. So that's the name, how we came up with the name. The website is bitizenship.com. I think it's a very, probably, in my view, worthy quest for increasing optionality, of course, along with the full respect of the rules of these programs, and creating value for the countries in a win-win manner. So we created this product specifically for now at the intersection of these different worlds, and we found critical product market fit. So we tried to, and we are trying every day to do our best for our investors and to provide the best terms possible given the specific legal framework of reference. So it's freedom, it's optionality, it's increasing capability of people for their future generations, and at the same time, we partially also disrupted maybe the status quo in the sense of creating a product that gives full transparency to the investors. So it's their choice. If they appreciate this vision, this direction, they can opt in. If they think there are better options for them, maybe it's not a fit, they can choose to opt in for a different solution.
That's absolutely amazing. Giving options is absolutely the true core of the immigration industry as a whole. So, like, combining cryptocurrency with investment immigration is really, truly an innovative idea. And the fund you're working with focuses exclusively on investing in a blockchain and Web3 companies. And it also qualifies for the Portugal's Golden Visa, as you just mentioned. So why did you choose Portugal as the starting point for this endeavor? So
our fund invests in a, let's call it a blockchain company, de facto focused on the Bitcoin network. So from an asset perspective, it's the Bitcoin as an asset only, in various methodologies. So it's a kind of, I would say, vision-driven commercial company and ecosystem. So it's Bitcoin ecosystem focused, let's say. We chose Portugal. Why? So right now, we are recording this interview in May 2025. There is no better program than Portugal, and our decision was based after a due analysis of the best option available on market. So we didn't create the fund here because we were having prior experience here. We already had a Golden Visa fund here with my co-founder. We are living here, but actually the things went the other way around. We wanted to offer the best product available possible on market, and therefore we chose Portugal. Portugal is right now the only country in Europe where you can gain residency, and after only 5 years, you can apply to citizenship without having to relocate here, because you need to respect minimal stay requirements, which means you need to be here only 14 days every 2 years. That's a major and actually unique value of the Golden Visa program from Portugal. There is nothing that can be compared right now with that. So in the moment, there will be alternatives as good as the Portuguese one. We will be the first ones to build products or viable solutions also in those countries. So right now, the Portuguese Golden Visa is the superior option. And I want to remark, Finn, also this point, which is very important. So a few weeks ago, actually 3 or 4, the Maltese Citizenship by Investment program got de facto killed by the ruling of the European Court of Justice. So right now in Europe, you can't buy quote-unquote citizenship. You can buy residency, and the residency will give you access to an application for gaining citizenship in a country. The Portuguese program is flexible, but at the same time, it's a serious program. And that's why I think it will last. Eventually, it will become a bit more expensive. Eventually, it will become a bit more restrictive, but I think it will last because it still requires language test or at least online classes. It still requires 5 years of lawful residency. The fact that the residency requirements are very flexible, well, it's part of the game, but at the same time, it's a serious program. So my kind of underlying remark when it comes to Golden Visa program is, in my view, you as a family, member, you as a potential, investor in a specific country, you should always prioritize serious offerings, because serious offerings will last longer. If you opt in for something cheap, something fast, maybe a shortcut, today it may work. Tomorrow, I'm not sure if it will work. So Portugal stands as a solid option. Of course, my take is that it won't last, at least with the current terms, forever, because from a global perspective, any program, any optionality, and any window, the trend is currently restricting every window of opportunity or optionality. So in my view, we live in a specific historical phase where there is a tension between personal freedom and eventually governmental regulation, and this tension creates sometimes frictions. And in my view, the friction point right now happens on Golden Visa programs or sometimes tax optimization structures. So my best advice, as always, is if you find something that can be a fit, although it may not be perfect, you may want to factor in your decision the inevitable risk of sudden changes in that specific program. So if you like something, sometimes it's a good advice to recommend people to remember that sometimes it's better to be 3 days earlier than a single day late, right?
Absolutely. That is actually a pretty solid foundation for what we're going to discuss next. So because one of the funds that is eligible for the Portugal Golden Visa is the Unbound Fund, so which is fully focused on the Web3 sector and specifically on the Bitcoin ecosystem. So why has the team chosen to concentrate on Bitcoin rather than diversifying into a broader crypto or tech portfolio?
There are a few reasons. The reason number one is that at the current stage of the industry, although there are valuable technologies out there, I am fundamentally a long-term believer predominantly in Bitcoin and eventually in Bitcoin only. So I personally, for my own actually perspective, and this is not, of course, investment advice, I think I adhere to a bullish vision for Bitcoin, which means essentially I believe that Bitcoin is going to be the new money and eventually the new global unit of account in the next 10 or 20 years. So in my view, any other technology which may be extremely promising, carries a lot of risks. So when you have to build a program and you need to offer it on the market, I think it's important to choose something that can have a good ratio between risk and potential rewards. And without getting into, too many eventually opinionated points on blockchain networks, Bitcoin, proof of work, proof of stake, without going there on technicalities, I think that the best ratio for this opportunity of enabling people to gain new residencies, new passports is Bitcoin. And it's probably a more puristic product. So this is one reason. Another reason is I believe that in general, it's very important to be you need to be transparent with your customer and with your investor or with the person you work with. So sometimes it's easier to ensure a higher degree of transparency when the product is simple, because the more complexity you add to the product, the more eventually layers of opaqueness could arise. So I believe that in my view, in retrospective, the choice of being puristic or maximalist in shaping this product rewarded us because of the inherent increased transparency that it carries. So this is also so simplicity, transparency, these are the key values, and in my view they adhere better with Bitcoin. At the same time, I'm not excluding necessarily other valuable options. In my view, the product that wins is the simple, clear, neat, and cost-efficient product rather than the complex, eventually sometimes opaque, hard to explain, and so far and so on. So these are more or less the reasons that led us to create this model. And as always, when you create something new on the market, it works. If you don't have at a certain point imitators or people trying to imitate you, maybe something didn't go as expected, right? So still we at this point in the market, it's only us. We are, if not the only, the largest and for sure the predominant operator, and we will keep building relentlessly along this vision. And there will be news in the coming months.
So now let's compare to more traditional Portuguese Golden Visa funds to our current the Unbound funds, which are the traditional Portuguese Golden Visa funds are usually based on real estate or private equity. So what are the unique advantages of the Unbound fund, and what type of investors do you think this fund is best suited for?
Right now, one of the best routes for the Golden Visa program in Portugal is constituted by private equity funds or investment funds in general. The current investment funds that are available on market predominantly try to target hospitality, renewable energy, agricultural funds, and other options. Of course, there is a vast variety of investment funds. My take is everyone should be always free to opt in and choose the fund covering the industry they're more familiar with or they prefer to invest in. If they want to invest in hospitality in Portugal, I guess there will be good options on market, and why not? If you are a believer in that industry, do it. If you know, of course, you understand fully what you're investing on. In our case, we give to the investors the option to invest indirectly and get exposure indirectly to Bitcoin, and of course indirectly to support the movement, because clearly this formula and the local company is an active Bitcoin ecosystem actor. So this means that who invests in our fund not only get exposure to Bitcoin, but indirectly expresses the willingness to support this movement for Bitcoin. So this is our unique value proposition. And at the same time, the advantages are we cut down all the costs. So compared to the average, our fund charges half of the performance fee, 10%. We charge less management fee. We don't apply subscription fees at the fund level, typically 10, 15K, depending on the fund, and so far and so on. And also the direct costs at the company level are in general mitigated, and we communicate them upfront. So we try to create a very clear offering with more competitive costs and a very agile structure compared to potential alternatives. That said, Finn, it's clearly something that people who believe in Bitcoin, maybe they already have exposure, they appreciate, but this is a fantastic offering for typically Bitcoin first investors, eventually in their 30s or in their 40s with family. This is our ideal target. We onboarded many well-known personalities in the tech space and in the crypto industry in general, or in the Bitcoin movement. We have been the selected option for many and many of them. So this is our ideal. Typically, the investor appreciates our offering. That said, if you feel more confident in investing in local hospitality or agricultural funds, you consider it. Clearly, there is a different risk reward. Eventually, ratio, and with your specification that the fund technically is still investing and always investing in a company. The company is a Bitcoin company de facto. Well, if we consider Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ecosystem, well, there is always risk as in anything, but it's up to you to study the precedent performances of this asset and come to your own conclusion about where this is going. So we have a radical position and a conviction in this, but anyone should really do their own research and then decide if this can be the best option for them. We are particularly proud to, by the way, to push innovation and Bitcoin movement in Portugal. We are quite active here. We are trying to do our also to contribute to make Lisbon specifically a prominent tech hub. I'm hosting every month events here. We are quite busy to trying generally to, on one side, to advance the Bitcoin ecosystem and the Bitcoin movement as a whole, and on the other hand, to place Portugal and Lisbon in particular on the map of the global tech scene. So this is our kind of commitment. And if investors resonate with this commitment and with this vision, we are the best option.
Absolutely. That is very clear. So now let's move beyond Portugal a little bit. So are you also exploring ways to connect like crypto with other investment migration programs? Because, for instance, Antigua has been quite crypto friendly since its legislative actions back in 2020. Despite the fact that CBI doesn't really accept direct crypto yet, investors can now convert crypto to fiat through intermediaries. And also other countries like St. Kitts now accepts crypto as part of the source of funds operations. So do you see any potential in those crypto-friendly citizenship programs like beyond Portugal?
I write about these topics almost every day. So from a personal interest and company interest perspective, I'm of course aware and attracted by programs in general that became crypto friendly. From a company standpoint, for Bitizenship, we are and we will remain a product company. So this means that we will build funds, investment vehicles, and we want to be the best in doing that. So as a product-only company, product-focused company, I believe sometimes you need to decide which is the area where you want to excel. And in our view, you can't be a product company and a service company and be the number one in the world on both sides. You need to decide. So, and we want to be the number one in the world for the on the product side. So, I am aware of Antigua. I think these options can be great options. We, as Citizenship, we don't provide right now, and we don't think we will provide in the future consultancy services. But if sometimes investors ask us an informal opinion, we give a positive feedback, and we always reference to other firms like Globevisa, or depending on also on the jurisdiction, on the type of client, the language spoken. But we don't try to advise on things we don't know in depth. So we prefer, to be frank, to be very specialist, and it's already enough because it's an immense amount of work. In 1995 or 1999, only one company out of 1,000 eventually was an internet company. Today, in 2025, to a major or minor extent, every company in the world is also an internet company. So the same kind of evolution will take place with crypto. So today, eventually, there are crypto-friendly jurisdictions. Tomorrow, to a certain extent, every jurisdiction, every program will be eventually crypto-friendly. This is the natural part of the evolution from a technology standpoint. So I think probably I would put this kind of phenomena under this eventually umbrella and this kind of headline. But and yeah, I think people, crypto investors in general are eventually the most sensitive to innovation and eventually to personal freedom. And since they give value to these, to these principles and human values, they are more inclined to opting for second passport, second residencies. So I see this trend to on both the offering and the demand side to grow in the coming years.
So it seems like the immigration industry and the crypto industry or blockchain technology as a whole has a lot of coincided or intersecting values, so to speak. So do you think that basically gives out a really positive outlook on the future of cryptocurrencies in the global migration market?
Yes, I do believe the kind of values of the crypto world in general and the migration industry, they coincide, and they will more and more, they will coincide even more in the coming years. So the migration industry inevitably will become more crypto friendly, and the crypto industry or the crypto operators eventually will become more sensitive to increased opportunities in the migration sphere. So they will over and over be more, because ultimately for us it's obvious, but for even normal people, normal investors, sometimes they didn't have the time to think of, oh, I'm going to get a new passport, I'm going to get a new residency. I think the awareness will grow in the coming years on both sides. So yes, this is a trend, but once again, my kind of prediction is it's like for the internet companies. So right now, yeah, we are having this chat about these terms, but in a few years, every operator will be crypto friendly, or every firm, every company will use AI. Today there are specifically new AI. I think the future is going to be in small cities, small nations, new forms of private special economic zones, and in this kind of renewed freedom actually sphere for people and for families and individuals, of course. Migration and crypto will be a central theme on both sides. So I think the trend is going to be up. On the other hand, on the offer side, from government opportunities, the trend is going to be severe increased restriction, because every single time, every 6 months, what yesterday was possible and maybe costed 100, today either it's not possible anymore, or it is possible but the cost doubled. So my recommendation is always factor in the risk of doubling the price of the option you are considering. So it's like if you are considering to buy a new computer, but there is a risk that maybe the concurrent offering of the computer, the current MacBook is not ideal for you. It's 8 out of 10, but it costs you 1K. Tomorrow, maybe it will cost 2K. So I think that's the kind of choice that every modern family, modern investor, modern citizen is right now experiencing.
Understood. So in our discussion so far, I believe we have set up a pretty vivid image for where the world and tech world is heading for and heading towards. So between now and that eventual destination that we just pictured, so what is, do you think, the biggest barrier to prevent the widespread adoption of cryptocurrency and or token-based models in the immigration space?
Direct adverse regulations, so regulations that will ban it broadly, or I would say soft bans, which means sometimes it's not the adverse regulation that we should fear, sometimes it's the untold administrative practice that eventually makes it very difficult to use crypto. So this is, in my view, probably right now the number one risk, because sometimes the direct regulation that tells you no, you can't do something it's not necessarily the worst thing, because if you have a clear no, you can go somewhere else where a specific practice is allowed, or the use of, for example, of Bitcoin for buying, I don't know, for investing in a country. The problem, in my view, can be also when administrative practices makes extraordinarily complex to use crypto. So this is, in my view, still the number one risk. The number two risk is a black swan event from a security standpoint, which, by the way, seems to be unlikely. Quantum computer and not, this is something that has been proven, at least theoretically, being a known severe risk for the Bitcoin network, at least. And I think these are the two risks, the two predominant risks. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that is a really, really helpful lecture, or not a lecture, but like a discussion or sharing your insights with our viewers and ourselves, talking about crypto and also the Bitcoin ecosystem surrounding immigration. So, from what have you been seeing so far? So, how do you view Globevisa's role in bringing traditional immigration services together with innovative sectors like crypto?
I will be asking this in a couple of days to Harry, the CEO of Globevisa. So let's see what Harry says. But yeah, I can try to anticipate a few key things. In my view, for what I've been able and very glad to. So I really like, to be frank, how Globevisa has been built. So sometimes you see large operators being closed to innovation, busy. Globevisa generally seemed to me a large operator at the same time, led with a sort of founder-led mindset. And in this case, Harry and Melvin, I know, I'm referring to the English names, of course. It's easier for our audience today. But they are incredible founders, and I think Globevisa, as a founder-led company, still has a major opportunity to evolve fast. And that was my, what we discussed with Harry. And I saw a lot of interest and genuine interest from Globevisa itself. And that's why we're really happy to work together. So I think there can be a major opportunity on both sides. And for your clients, you have a huge reach worldwide. I think this is going to be a win-win on both sides.
Thank you for that. So, looking ahead to our future collaboration, so do you have any expectations in terms of working with, a sort of all-encompassing service provider that, such as Globevisa?
Well, I can tell you this, Finn. So I come from, in generally, a more tech world where collaboration is always a non-zero-sum game. And in the immigration industry, you can find operators who are extremely open-minded, cooperative, and I learned also sometimes you find the opposite, actually, because it's a maybe small market, etc. So I really appreciate that we are complementary, and as we always tell everybody, we are a product company, so we want to excel in doing only this, and therefore we are perfectly compatible. And running products or funds in this space, it's very hard. So people think, I think since when we launched this company, I met at least 3 guys convinced, to raise 30 million in 3 months. Nobody has raised 1 single million until now. Why? Because you all think, oh yeah, I can do a product. It can be this is very delusional, unfortunately, and it's part of the how eventually the appearances eventually in doing products in this sector appear. So coming back to Globevisa, I think the same applies for services. Doing services at scale like you do, it's not an easy journey, and that's what probably I'm going to discuss with Harry, because I'm quite, to be frank, also from a personal standpoint, interested in learning more of the journey, because it's an incredible entrepreneurial journey. And in terms of expectation, look, the reason why we grew and we are keeping growing is I rarely have an expectation first of what I can receive before instead being confident on what I can offer. So in this case, I'm confident I can offer a lot of value and the best product on market. On the sideline, I will try I'm not. I'm more on the strength sports and tennis, but I will try to do something similar to Harry because I know he did 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents. So who knows? Maybe one day, even if I'm a big guy, I will try to do the same.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alessandro. That has been a really open, candid, and really helpful discussion. I mean, I learned a lot today personally. So I really appreciate your time and effort to go through all of these questions with us. So this is your host, Finn, signing off.